is Robert Lee Brown. I was retired on 1 March 1987 as a commander in the United States Navy. Commissioned as an ensign out of NROTC at Purdue University. My first ship was USS Marysville, an experimental patrol craft escort rescue, EPCER 857, from 1965 to 1967. I was a reserve officer at the time. My reserve officer duty was up, and so I told my detailer, I said, I will stay in the Navy if you give me one of those gunboats and Nam. He was glad to accommodate, and I went from there to ONC of PCF 87 in Queen Yon, RBN, from April of 67 to April of 68. 3 years prior to, 3 days prior to departing for Nam, I married my high school sweetheart. We had dated for 8.5 years, so got married. I think she wanted my insurance. And went through April of 67 to April of 68. TET was a big thing, of course. I was, PCF 87 was part of Coastal Division 15, which was at Queen Yon RBN 2 Corps. We didn't have a clue. It was very disturbing years later, watching 60 Minutes and General Westmoreland saying, yeah, they had all kinds of intel that this was coming. Didn't tell us. That was kind of disappointing, actually. After Vietnam, I was out of the Navy for a very short period of time and then came back in, destroyer school, from destroyer school to weapons officer aboard USS O'Callahan, DE-1051, 2 deployments back to Vietnam, gun line and Yankee Station, 7-month deployments back to back. From there to U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, master's degree in oceanography. From there to Commander Carrier Group 1, we had three carriers, Kitty Hawk, Constellation, and Ranger. After Car Group 1 was to my first shore duty, other than PG school, Fleet ASW Training Center, where I was Director of Officer Training at Norfolk. Then aboard USS Nimitz, CVN 68, I was First Lieutenant, set a lot of records, and we also did the failed hostage extraction attempt in Iran. Biggest point there was 178 days at sea without seeing any dirt, except for our fingernails, and the very first ever beer day since name, outlawed booze in the Navy. Can't think of his name all of a sudden. Nimitz. From Nimitz, Fleet SW Training Center at Pacific for about 10 months. And then I was XO of USS Prairie, AD-15. Oldest ship in the United States Navy. We carried the Don't Tread on Me flag. And sometime during that point, we brought aboard for the very first time women in the Navy. It was very, very interesting. We had the Navy for, we had to go through a bunch of training to say how are we going to treat women in the Navy and all this sort of thing. All the guys have got to learn, Women came aboard, were extremely gung-ho, and they were extremely interested in improving themselves. And they were tremendous. It's fun to watch the deck department where all the little seaman apprentice, women were busting their buns, if you will, working hard, doing all their practical factors, doing all of their lesson plans and that sort of stuff, and they were progressing tremendously. Guys were all upset. Hey, we're giving special. No, guys, check out. They're doing their good things, and so. You saw this trend to start with until the guys got smart and said, oh, it takes a little hard work, a little self-sacrifice, and let's get going. and then you just saw the ship go like this, and we won the Battle Lead for the Pacific Fleet. So that was a good transition. After Prairie, then I'm getting long in the tooth and no longer on the shortcut to CNO. I had a good friend that I had worked for. He was a destroyer squadron commander. He asked me to go to sea with him one more time. And so I went to sea as Chief Staff Officer of Desron 23, the Little Beaver Squadron. We were the anti-submarine warfare commander for the battle group, which was the Enterprise battle group, deployed to Westpac, deployed to the Indian Ocean, and because of what is actually very present was a guy named Gaddafi, or he spelled his name about 15 different ways, and he was acting up again. So we, on our final deployment in 1986, there was Vice President George Bush came aboard the ship. The next day we turned right, went through the Gulf of Aden. We were supposed to go to Australia, and so we went through the Gulf of Aden and up in through the Red Sea. Made the very first deployment of the Suez ditch with a new carrier into the Mediterranean. Dropped a couple of bombs on Gaddafi, and then spent the rest of the summer on the Côte d'Azur. Okay. After that, I came back to the States, and in March of 1987, I retired.